Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great having you on the channel today. All eyes are on Invest 98L as it moves into the Eastern Caribbean and potentially develops into a hurricane, maybe a major hurricane stalling for days, according to the GFS. We'll take a look at the GFS and the European model as this could be a devastating storm of the late hurricane season. Looking at the European model, hinting at a further westward storm towards parts of Central America, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands as a major hurricane, and we'll take a look and see if that is hinting at the potential for a coastal storm along the East Coast, maybe merging with this potential major hurricane. Could this form a hybrid storm along the East Coast or Eastern New England as the European is hinting towards the end of the month, beginning in November? Let's get into it. And looking at the long-range infrared satellite view, you can see Invest 98L bearing down on the Lesser Antilles as we stretch throughout Sunday here. So yeah, this is going to be quite the storm as it enters the Caribbean. You see also we have a tropical wave just south of Jamaica over here. And we have a frontal boundary kind of stalled out here, this area across the north central part of the Caribbean. And here we are, starting off with the GFS, and then we'll propagate over towards the European model. And I'll show you the difference between the two, because there is some differences as we get beyond a week out. So here is Invest 98L right here as we stretch through Sunday evening into Sunday night. It's moving through parts of the southern Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada here, Barbados, St. Lucia area, providing gusty winds and heavy rain. And we'll go over those rainfall amounts several minutes from now. But you can see as it moves into the Eastern Caribbean, this is where things are really going to start to come together. We also have some sort of strong tropical wave over by Nicaragua over here we'll keep an eye on. The good news is that's going to be slowly heading out towards the Eastern Pacific. It's going to provide some flooding rains here for Nicaragua. But here we go. As we stretch through the 21st into the 22nd, you continue to see this low pressure try to form here. And the moisture from what's left of this system kind of gets caught up in it just a tad. But on the GFS, as we stretch through the 23rd, this is where we start to get some explosive development. Now, of course, through day 7, we have a 60% chance, which is likely to continue to increase as we go through time. Look at this. This is a hurricane by this point, just south of Dominican Republic here and Haiti. And it's providing parts of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and southeastern Bahamas here with tremendous rain. We also have some outer bands here through Jamaica, all the way up through eastern Cuba as well. So this is something we'll have to keep an eye on. I am going to hint here, the European has been trending further west, whereas the GFS has been trending further east here. But you get the idea. This is a very large circulation. This would also continue to provide the Lesser Antilles here. St. Lucia all the way up to Guadalupe here, Dominica, these areas all the way up through the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, Puerto Rico, heavy rain on the eastern end of this. And it continues to kind of sit this storm essentially due south of Dominican Republic and start to push those eastern bands, which are the worst side of the storm, into Puerto Rico here. So this would be very bad for Puerto Rico, parts of the Dominican Republic, the Virgin Islands here. And look at this, major hurricane by this point, the 24th. So this is only like 4 to 5 days away. And GFS is continuing to slowly push that hurricane, agonizingly slow, between Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and then wobble it just a tad to the west. So what is with the weak steering currents here? It has to do with this high pressure off the U.S. East Coast, continuing to try to build west. It's kind of blocking the storm initially from just moving up in northeast and recurving out into the open Atlantic. So you get the idea here. Weak steering currents. There's not much to move this system. The nearest trough, well, we have a trough way up here towards the Azores and then one here into the north central Gulf. So we don't have anything to move this. It kind of gets stalled over eastern Dominican Republic through the 26th. This continues to sit here and spin Puerto Rico. You continue to get torrential rain out of this. And here it is making landfall right into Dominican Republic for days on end. By that point, if it does move over the island of Hispaniola, it would likely weaken to a tropical storm under this scenario. It would become a tremendous heavy rain producer, and that would eventually become the thing for what this system may be known for. But we'll continue to watch it here. This is a major system that needs to be watching. You can see it becomes a very large circulation if it does move over parts of Hispaniola here, because it would unravel and all of that moisture. It's like a massive ball of moisture. You can see continuing just days on end. I'm going to show you rainfall maps here just several minutes from now, and it is going to be staggering, the rainfall amounts. But it all depends on where the system develops and where it goes. And as you can see, we do start to get some troughiness along the U.S. East Coast. Right here it is, that trough kicking in. And this is going to allow it by, look at this, the 28th to finally start to move to the northeast. It does start to affect southeastern Bahamas here as well. And you can see this starts to barrel up towards just south and east of Bermuda. But still, Bermuda, you're not off the hook from this because it all depends on where this trough captures this storm. By this point, we're still seeing feeder bands by October 30th through parts of the central Lesser Antilles here. Now, as we stretch through the end of the month, we do have another tropical wave moving through the Western Caribbean here. You can see it trying to flare up towards Jamaica. So we may not be over just yet, as GFS is hinting at maybe some development here again into parts of the central and Western Caribbean. Let's take a look at the Euro. All right, so looking at the European model here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits, our tropical analysis, here's our strong tropical wave beginning to move through parts of the Lesser Antilles as we stretch throughout the rest of Sunday evening, Sunday night. You can see it moving into the Eastern Caribbean. So all eyes are going to be on this system. This is likely to become a major issue as we stretch over the next couple days. You can see it really starting to develop as we head towards Tuesday into Wednesday, just south of Haiti and Dominican Republic here. So at this point, the Euro is trending westward as that subtropical high right to the northeast of Bermuda up here continues to build north and westward here. So you can see the low pressure trying to initialize here on the European model. Slower development, it looks like, than the GFS. But here it is. European still developing this into a tropical storm just south of the island of Jamaica with a prolonged, extremely heavy rain event. So this would be very devastating to parts of Jamaica, eastern Cayman Islands, Haiti, eastern Cuba, southeastern Bahamas like the Turks and Caicos, even as far east as Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico here. So this is something we need to keep a very close watch on. Euro does continue to wobble it a bit further westward here and then start to develop it into a hurricane and potentially a major hurricane. This is the part where things really get real here for Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. So if the European does turn out being correct here, which is very disturbing, developing to a potentially major hurricane between the Cayman Islands and Jamaica. So please stay tuned. This would be right around the 29th. Look at that, 949 millibars, 936. This would be a devastating hit, especially to Jamaica, if this does verify. But the good news is this is 10 to 11 days out, so a lot can change. Bahamas, you would be in play under a scenario like this too. I just want to back this up because I want to show you at this time on the European model, we do have this East Coast trough, so that helps to protect parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, Honduras, and Belize here, and much of Central America. This helps to kick it up this region. Unfortunately, it may try to take it up the East Coast, which I'll show you momentarily as we zoom out, because I want to show you the big picture of the Atlantic. But it does take it up this area of troughiness along the East Coast and try to merge it into like a hybrid storm. The whole time, though, you can see on the southern and eastern component of this, it's pushing extremely torrential rain into the island of Hispaniola here. That is not good news, and that continues for days on end. So I'm going to go over rainfall amounts in just a minute or two, and they are staggering. They are scary. However, we need to keep in mind this is still several days out, almost as much as 10 days out once the hurricane gets cranking. So it looks like both models are really grabbing on to a major hurricane at this point. But where it goes, the exact track, it needs to be worked out. So don't get too panicked at this point. Just have a game plan together if this were to form and move over your area, because you do have several days to prepare for this. Look at this. Even on November 1st, we still have that steady stream conveyor belt of tropical moisture heading across the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and St. Croix here. So please watch out. Let's zoom out here. So outside this system, you see the intertropical convergence zone out here, still trying to crank some waves out this late in the season. Here's our Caribbean system. You see this high pressure on the European model is just enough to help push this further westward than the GFS model. However, we have this trough developing across the southeastern part of the United States. And that is going to be the big player. It's all about timing of this. So essentially, you start to get this system along the East Coast. You get this cutoff low to the west and a coastal low trying to develop, and it tries to pull it up the East Coast. You see you have essentially a low pressure right over New York City here. Then you have a 960 millibar low just barreling up the coastline here, making landfall right through the Gulf of Maine into Maine in eastern New England. That would be pretty devastating. It's right around 963 millibars at this point, and then moves inland and then kind of cuts off in this area. Still a 982 millibar low by November 2nd. So this is a scenario on the Euro that's kind of scary. We need to watch, but the good news is it's so far out that solution may not end up happening. There's so much margin of error, but please stay tuned. It's something that the European model has been throwing out there. So let's keep an eye on it. And looking at our Invest 98L intensity forecast scale, easily becoming a tropical storm. And look at, we do now have 3 models taking it up, actually 4 back here, taking it up towards Category 1 and Category 2 storm. So watch out. This has been a trend to increase over the next week to week and a half the intensity of Invest 98L as it heads into the Caribbean. Sea surface temperature analysis, this is exactly what I'm worried about. Look at parts of the eastern, central Caribbean, even the western Caribbean. Some of these areas are well 3 to 5 degrees above average. So we have this strong tropical wave moving into this area. You know it's going to explode, especially considering the wind shear's going down. The sea surface temperatures are high. The atmosphere, we have very little dry air. It is primed for a big storm. And looking over here into the Western Caribbean, all eyes are going to be on the precipitation associated with our tropical wave developing likely into a tropical storm. And this could be serious rainfall totals here. European is going all in, not just the northern Honduras coast here where we approach 200 to 300 millimeters, but look at southern parts of Jamaica, 495 millimeters, eastern tip 559. Very concerned. Eastern Cayman Islands, too. You're going to get clipped here with 300 to 400 millimeters with this scenario. Southern parts of Haiti as well. We're getting up towards 500 millimeters. Dominican Republic, it's going to be variable for you. South coast, right around 200 to 300 millimeters. North coast, a bit less, 80 to about 120 millimeters. Puerto Rico and St. Croix over here, you're looking, anywhere from about 1 to 2 inches on average with close to 3 to 4 inch amounts potentially as well. Progressing here into the GFS part of the Western Caribbean. Yeah, if the GFS verifies, this would be lesser amounts of rain out of this system, but still, northern coastline of Honduras, some areas approaching 200 to 300 millimeters. Belize, right around 150, 175 millimeters. Almost nothing up here in Cancun by the standards here. Anywhere from about 50 millimeters or lower. Nicaragua, look at that, 400 millimeters easily. So you get the idea. Jamaica is a bit less on the GFS, but you're still looking at some totals approaching 100 to 200 millimeters, especially in the eastern part of the island here. So watch out. And looking at the Eastern Caribbean here, this is where our wave's going to be moving through over the next couple days through the Lesser Antilles, St. Vincent, Barbados, these areas. Watch out. Could be getting 80 to maybe as much as 100 millimeters. That progresses westward, but we're still going to see tropical moisture plume in through the first part of November. But all eyes are going to be on our potential tropical storm and maybe hurricane. And here we go for the GFS rainfall totals. Keep in mind the GFS is a little bit further to the east here, so it doesn't get Jamaica into those extreme rainfall totals. Instead, it targets Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico area, St. Croix, these areas, southeastern Bahamas. This could be devastating if this verifies, but the GFS has been very adamant in changing too much west or east here. So look at this. Some areas over 1,000 millimeters. This would be very devastating. This would put Puerto Rico easily in the 1 to 2.5 feet of rain. So with how slow it's moving to eastern parts of Dominican Republic, upwards of 800 millimeters. This would be very devastating as well. Even the Lesser Antilles here, Trinidad, Tobago, you're looking 150, 200 millimeters all the way up the island chain. Some of these areas close to 300 millimeters. So this would be a serious rainmaker as well. The rest of your Sunday here, yeah, look at this. So just backing this up, our future radar, yeah. Showers and thunderstorms, eastern Ohio as we head into the early afternoon, western New York, western Pennsylvania. Look at this. This really starts to solidify into a squall line. Wind is going to be the main threat, but it does begin to move into an area of high pressure through 8 p.m. this evening. You can see this future radar showing a lot of heavy rain. Still a squall line right around Reading, Allentown, just west of Scranton by midnight up through the I-81 corridor here. But you can see this moving to the northeast. Winds will be gusting 30, 40 miles an hour outside these convective things. So you might actually see some gusts near 50 miles an hour in some of these heavier areas of showers and thunderstorms. And there is a marginal risk of severe weather. So any one of these cells could become severe. I think damaging wind would be the main threat in excess of 58 miles an hour. So look at parts of eastern New England. So this does move through the New York City area with a little fanfare through 4 a.m. Catskills, Hudson Valley, 3, 4, 5 a.m., and then through New England as we stretch through 11, 12, 1 p.m. on Monday. You see that pulling up towards Maine. Behind it, we get a little bit of a lake effect response, clearing for the most part into early Tuesday, but then we start to get another round of some showers and thunderstorms throughout northern Ohio as we wake up on Tuesday morning. Looking at severe weather outlook, yeah, there could be some stronger thunderstorms as we head throughout the day, especially Sunday evening into Sunday night across parts of the mid-Atlantic, eastern Ohio Valley, and into New York City, all the way down to northern North Carolina here. And as we stretch on into your Monday, that's going to pull up through the northeast, but they will just be regular thunderstorms, South Florida as well, and the upper Midwest. As we go through your Tuesday, here's what we're looking at. A few showers and thunderstorms across the Great Lakes, Gulf Coast, and South Florida again, but nothing severe. And Eric Rentschler from Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, October 18th, 2025 here. Lebanon County, look at this beautiful sunrise. It is a nice autumn sunrise. Look at those colors. Sunrises and sunsets this time of year are just stunning. Get out there and enjoy it. The fall foliage is really starting to pop in many areas as well. Very nice captures there. That's a beautiful way to start the day. Nice capture, Derek Rentschler, Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. And I have a couple of my own photos here to displaying here from full foliage season here back on Thursday, October 16th. It was a beautiful day across parts of the southern tier of New York. You can see Shenango Valley State Park here, one of the glacial lakes in the park, some nice fall foliage color. It was a beautiful blue skies, a perfect day to behold here. You can see I have a wider shot here along the shoreline. So just take those leaves in. Yeah, you can see them across parts of the blue sky, those beautiful oranges, yellows, and reds that were coming out here along the river. So it was just a beautiful day to be had. Couldn't have been any better. The hillsides were pretty much on fire here. As you can see, this is Nathaniel Cole Park in upstate New York as well, the eastern southern tier, just on the edge of the Catskills. You can see beautiful color here across the lake. Beautiful blue skies. Once again, this tree was on fire as well. So I will have many more photos to come here as I offload my memory sticks. But yeah, look at this. As the sun was slowly going down on October 18th here in Nathaniel Cole Park, this light reflection off of these orange leaves was simply stunning. And there's Shenango Valley State Park again on October 19th as the sun had already set. So there you have it. Get out there and enjoy that fall foliage. And here we go. We're looking at picking up where our feature radar left off here on our GFS. And as you can see, we continue to push that system off the coast. Big swell line moving through parts of eastern New England as we stretch to Monday. But look at this. Another storm system with more showers and thunder showers pivoting across the eastern parts of the lakes and northeast. That's going to keep things showery across the lakes and a cooler. Look at this. Some lake effect. Cleveland up to Erie. Rain showers on the 22nd here. So as we stretch mid to late week, we're going to get that proverbial lake effect as those lakes are still very warm. And then as we continue, another storm system developing. High pressure is moving off the U.S. East Coast at this point. As we stretch through the 25th into the 26th, you can see a wave of low pressure, a surge of moisture, and unfortunately, that's right around Sunday the 26th here. So that's going to develop into some rain situation. Look at the Outer Banks here. We have a coastal low trying to take shape here, and that's going to go out over to the open waters as we stretch through the 28th and 29th. All eyes will be on our potential major hurricane. GFS is very optimistic in taking it out to sea. Another wave of low pressure. Look at this, moving through Ohio the 29th. This could be some very beneficial rain as we could get 2 to 4 inches in some areas. And look at that. Surge of conveyor belt moisture all the way up through the 31st. parts of eastern and most of New England at this point. And as you can see through November 3rd here, it looks pretty quiet, but look what's waiting in the wings here. This is quite a vigorous front, and this could be a major air mass change. And we're going to pick up where our future radar left off. You can see as we stretch through the first part of the week, that storm system moving through the northeast, we may have a squall line forming along it. So gusty, damaging winds potential. Look at that through parts of the northeast as we pull this major low pressure up. Yeah, at 998 millibars, it looks like it's getting down to. Next system moves through the eastern Ohio, eastern Great Lakes area that kind of cuts off across parts of eastern Canada. We actually see some mixed precipitation up here, which I'll cover in my Canadian weather outlook. But as we stretch through the rest of the week, Thursday, yeah, you can see this troughiness. It's going to be cooler than average here across parts of the lakes in the northeast. Cooler conditions with showery conditions at times, and then we get a little bit of a severe weather outbreak across parts of the southern plains as we stretch through Friday into Saturday. That moves to the Gulf Coast region and across Georgia and the Carolinas for next weekend, right around the 26th. High pressure's really holding in control across eastern Canada by this point. We do try to get a coastal right along the outer banks of North Carolina here, so watch out. That could flare up. But look at that. It does provide you with a nice weekend. For the most part until later Sunday where it does start to move in. But then we get this big area of low pressure. Look at this. This could drag a squall line through parts of eastern, most of Ohio for that matter. Wednesday the 29th here, look at surging up into the northeast. This is a very strong storm. Wouldn't be surprised to see some wet snow on the back end of it. And we'll be watching this potential for major hurricane. Where will it go? Will it kind of pump into this East Coast low and try to do something in eastern New England? We're going to have to keep a very close watch on this because this could become some sort of hybrid storm across parts of eastern New England if the European model verifies here. This would be pretty devastating. So we'll keep an eye on it here. And looking at our European rainfall totals here as we continue through the rest of the weekend and early week. Yeah, 1 to 1.5 inches here into the darker purples, into parts of New England as well. So some beneficial rain, but it's not going to be enough to put your dent in the drought here through parts of Ohio. Next system moving through the southeast. Look at this as we get throughout the week. Yeah, if this does verify, if we get an East Coast low combining forces with that hurricane potential, we could have some areas. This is a little bit disturbing here. 15, 16 inches in parts of eastern New England. We'll keep an eye on it here, even back through parts of upstate New York, widespread 5 to 6, 7 inches. So this is something we'll have to keep an eye on, maybe clipping the outer banks as well, 4 to 6 inches. Eastern Florida, you're going to be close here. Bahamas, torrential rain as well. So yeah, this is looking pretty stormy. We'll keep an eye on it here. And rainfall totals here on the GFS model. Yeah, through the lakes, northeast Ohio Valley, about an inch or inch and a half on average. We're just going to push these rainfall totals up. The GFS keeps our potential major hurricane well off the East Coast, so it's more optimistic than the European model. This takes us also through November 4th, but you get the idea. Still a lot of rain up here. This would be beneficial over the next couple weeks. Look at parts of Ohio, 3 to 5 inches of rain. Northeast Ohio, that's where you're getting closer to, look at Cleveland, right around 5 inches over the next 2 weeks. Parts of upstate New York, northern New England, some areas approaching 6 inches. So it's going to get pretty rainy and wet. And look at off the Carolina coastline here. Some of these areas just off the Outer Banks, it's going to be really close for you, 5 to 7 inches of rain. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help, especially if you made it this far in the video and you like it. Question or comment down below. I love to read and respond to your questions or comments. Don't forget, subscribe, bell notification button if you haven't already. Trying to get my hurricane outlook, my winter 2025-26 outlook. So be sure to watch for that, especially as we slowly at least try to put an end to hurricane season. It's still cranking though. Let's continue with more weather coverage. And looking at our NAO index here, it is staying stormy. This is very negative. It means a big blocking pattern. Eastern North America and the Western Atlantic looks extremely active through the rest of October into the beginning of November. Our MJO index is kind of puzzling, though. Look at this. We're right in phase 1, 2. Well, we were in 1. We're going to 2 basically right now. And then we're actually heading towards quieter phases, 3, 4, and 5 over the next couple weeks. So that would insinuate quieter weather, kind of negating the NAO index. And here we go with the upper air pattern here. For the European model, you can see these troughs kicking through parts of the Northeast and Midwest as we stretch through the mid part of the week, through the 22nd into the 23rd. This one gets cut off across parts of the lakes in the Northeast, New England here. And then we get this major omega block over eastern Canada. Look at that, all the way up to the Arctic Circle. This allows a big trough to kick in just underneath it, cutting off through parts of the southeast. And this is on the European model where it pulls it up and tries to capture our potential major hurricane here. Ridge trying to build north and east of it. This is a dangerous weather pattern. It's all about timing. Please stay tuned because this could actually try to push our major hurricane into a hard left turn. Of course, by that point, it would be more of a hybrid storm. Tropical storm Fengshen out here. This is going to become a thing as we continue to stretch through the northern Philippines. Torrential rain, that is going to be on its way to South China and eventually Vietnam here. So all the moisture, Hong Kong here through the 20th. Here is Tropical Storm Fengshen here. That's going to be thankfully remaining just a tropical storm, not a typhoon. There is a lot of wind shear just to the north of it with this frontal boundary. You can see this frontal boundary just stuck off the coast of Japan, providing a lot of tropical moisture up along it. Taiwan really getting inundated here as continuing the northern Philippines as well. That making landfall in northern Vietnam right around the 23rd here. So it kind of stalls out and we continue to watch this boundary just kind of surge parts of South Japan by the 25th here. You can see a wave of low pressure moving up towards this area. We'll also watch the Philippines for continued tropical wave development here through the end of the month. Here's the 26th into the 27th. Look at that. You're really into some cooler air across South China, Japan, and South Korea. So your tropical season's pretty much ending for the most part, but you can see across the Philippines and Vietnam, we're still waiting for more potential storms to form here. Through November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we have several systems here that we'll be watching. And here in the Western Pacific, rainfall totals, with those tropical systems right around Taiwan, South China, northern Vietnam, that's where the heaviest, even through the southern Japanese islands here, that's where the heaviest rain's going to be as we stretch through the first week of November. Look at this. Some areas, 400 to 600, 800 millimeters here in northern Taiwan. Japan, this is all synoptic scale flow with some tropical moisture down towards Okinawa here in these areas. Look at South Korea, though. Almost nothing. 17 millimeters, Seoul, and then Tokyo over here, you're right around 32. So, yeah, you get the idea. And here's your Canadian weather outlook. It's going to be very active on the West Coast and Southeast Canada as well. Although, look at this. We do have a strong storm winding up across parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba here, providing some gusty winds and some heavy rain, some thunder showers as well. The conveyor belt of Pacific systems is going to be real, though. Cutoff low across parts of Quebec, Ontario, and eventually pushing lots of moisture up through New Brunswick and Nova Scotia here. So if we just zoom into this, you can see the prairie is pretty quiet through the 23rd here, but this surge of moisture keeps going throughout the Canadian Maritimes as that low really winds up and cuts off here. Now, we do get some rainfall parts southern Ontario here right around the 26th into the 27th. This high pressure really starts to build into Quebec and provide some very beautiful weather, although you desperately need the rain. It is not good because we do not need, us to open next year with more wildfire situations. And that could be building up here. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. But the good news is we do get a few systems trying to push through this ridge. Eastern Ontario, you can see through the 30th, 31st, this winding up. Some good moisture making it into southern Quebec here, right around the 31st into the 1st. And then another wave moving through New Brunswick and Nova Scotia through November 1st into the 2nd into the Canadian Maritimes. These Pacific systems just keep pummeling British Columbia as we stretch through the first week of November. And here's our Canadian rainfall amounts. Eastern Canada and Western Canada, that's where the big storms are going to be. The central area is very quiet until as we get towards the end of the month where we get a little bit of spritzels. But yeah, it's the West Coast here, 200 to 300 millimeters, these heaviest Pacific systems. And look at southern Quebec, southeastern Ontario, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. Some of these areas could approach 150 to 200 millimeters of rain. Looking at our temperatures through the rest of your Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, look at this, 70s surging up into the mid-Atlantic Northeast. 50s behind it, though. This front is going to blast in as we get on into your Monday. Look at this, 50s and even some 60s here along the East Coast, 70s down in through parts. But look at Texas here. Yeah, it is into the 90s with that little heat wave bubbling up into Tuesday. You can see 40s up here in the upper Midwest. Look at through the lakes in the Northeast. That's where you'll be getting the nice temperate 60s. If there's any fall foliage, get out there and enjoy it because it's not going to last too much longer. 50s throughout the Ohio Valley, northern New England as we get into Thursday, October 23rd. Look at this. Yeah, the cold pool of air sitting across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. As we head on into Friday here, look at this. Lots and lots of 50s all the way through parts of the Appalachians as well. So we'll have to watch out for cooler conditions as fall really sets in. Look at northern New England into the 40s, 70s along the Gulf Coast. Extended forecast from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Look at this. So yeah, as we continue through the rest of Sunday, it will be partly sunny. Wind gusts will be as high as 35 miles an hour. So watch out. It may be blowing the fall foliage leaves off the trees if you're getting out there and enjoying it. The rain moves in, showers and thunderstorms into tonight, into Monday. We could have some gusty winds as well into Monday night. And Tuesday, we have still a chance of showers, but throughout the week, we start to equalize a bit. We start to fall down into the 50s with a chance of rain every day, but it'll just be scattered showers. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.